I'm Ben Kim, and on behalf of myself, Trey Hoffman, and Tom Kramer, we'd like to share with you our analysis of Free Ride Pittsburgh. Free Ride Pittsburgh is a non-profit bike collective serving the greater Pittsburgh area. In other words, it's a resource to obtain, maintain, and recycle bicycles and bike parts. Free Ride's three primary value-added processes are the building of bikes from salvaged bike parts, the recycling and scrapping of bikes, and bike sales.
So to get a better understanding of the processes behind Free Ride, we did a basic flow process diagram that kind of outlined what goes on in there to give us a better understanding of what needs to be changed. So first of all, they receive donated bikes, and then they check the condition. If the condition's not so good and nothing can really be used on the bike, it goes through the scrap process. If the bike is good, one of two things can happen. If a volunteer wants to work on the bike, they reevaluate the price and place in storage. If no one wants to work on the bike gets sold as is for $15.
After visiting the facility once, we were able to identify their functional departments and thus generate a floor plan of their facility.
Some of the problems and the ways we wish to address them are listed here.
As you guys can see, they really aren't too appealing and aren't standardized. Furthermore, the actual directions on some of their visual cues are unclear and tough to decipher. This can pose many safety issues down the road.
In observing the operations at Free Ride, we found that organization was a major area of concern. As you can see in the picture on the left, we have a lot of wrenches. None of them are standardized. There were tools sitting around without labels or any designation of what they were to be used for.
Space utilization was also a big problem in Free Ride. A lot of bikes were just strewn in the aisles, which can provide a safety hazard and obstructs the aisles themselves. The carousels are not very well centrally located, and you have to walk a long distance to get a bike from them. Additionally, Free Ride has a big issue with storing bikes. As you can see here, there's a lot more bikes than they're able to store. One of the preliminary analysis that we performed before implementing a new layout was an REL chart, but we also had to take into account client considerations. Some of the client considerations are seen here. The client really wanted a small storefront to be able to expand their selling power. Currently, the storefront is integrated into the workstation, causing a blurred line between the two. Shipping and receiving are both fixed. They need to store at least 100 bikes, which is the current storage capacity, be able to increase this due to our new methods. Client needs integrated tool storage and a better tool storage system, and they need a small area within the workstation for specialty tools. To the right, you can see our REL chart, which is slightly modified to include the flows on the bottom and the importance on the top. This helped us later determine which departments to get rid of and which departments to keep. On the left is the current bike storage technique. As you can see, the handlebars prevent the bikes from being closer together. After talking to a lot of the volunteers and staff that have been there for a while, we formulated the best option to be loosening the nut on the handlebar and turning the handlebar to be in line vertical with the wheels. This drastically reduces the amount of space needed in between the bicycles, allowing us to put the hooks that hold the bicycles much closer together.
On the right, you can see a detailed re-layout floor plan of what we are proposing that Free Ride implements in their facility. Some of the major changes that we made were that we removed the existing bike storage along this wall and re-implemented bike storage, which will divide the facility into two distinct areas. The first area can be seen as this section that I'm highlighting here. This is a more consumer-based area. Customers will now be able to enter in through the door and see a storefront where they can browse the selection of good bikes that Free Ride has to offer. Additionally, there's a lounge that can serve as a recreation and rest area for customers as well as volunteers. In this other side here, this is more of the work-oriented area. As you can see, we have scrapping as well as bike improvement and personal project departments. These departments serve two different purposes, however the equipment for each is somewhat uniform. Scrapping has the same workstations as bike improvement and personal project. Some ways that they differ and the reasons for locating them where they are that scrapping is important to be located here due to the material flow from the receiving area to the workstations and then out until shipping. This drastically reduced a lot of the redundant material handling that we had in the old layout that was caused by moving bikes all the way on this line and then back up here. The bike and personal improvement and personal project area is designated for use by people that want to come in on their own time. So the scrapping area and the bike improvement and personal project area share this parts storage so that they can either deliver from scrapping or retrieve from bike improvement and personal project. Finally, some of the small things that we changed, we wanted to put a centralized information board, a put up, tear down classroom over here, so for instruction and education, and then we wanted to sort of aim the specialty type tools, some odd things that the personal projects may need. And then the reception and cashier location remains the same.
There are a handful of disadvantages associated with that relayout. Foremost, in building this wall, there are definitely certain costs associated. Furthermore, we lose a little bit of overhead storage in building that wall. And finally, the scrapping department in the top right has the potential to get cramped.
We can see by the arrows indicating where material goes that we are reducing a lot of the travel distance. In the old facility, receiving had to go all the way down to the bottom corner to go to the workstation, which had to go to the outside scrap area. However, we noticed 2 unutilized bay doors located here and here in the facility that we can streamline a lot of the material handling to go through them. This greatly reduced the amount of distance traveled for employees. The majority of bikes Freeride receives are not very good, therefore there is very little salvage. We did not include salvage in our flow times cost times distance due to variability of this material. Here you can see comparison between the old and new flow betweens and the volumes associated with each. These values are bikes per day. Next, we calculated the centroids for each department, both old and new, and calculated the distances in between using the rectilinear distance. Finally, we performed a current flow times cost times distance and a new flow times cost times distance to get the total values seen on the right hand side.